Ellen G. White and Her Prophetic Legacy, with Michael Sokupa.
The White Estate is preparing prophetic guidance lessons that will help to guide young people, new members. These reference works will be used for further reading. There are very interesting connections here. As you can see, these resources are helping for us to understand who Ellen White was. But Ellen White herself, in her own writings, helps us to understand Scripture, to understand the Bible. And so as we continue to look at this important area, we need to remember that the whole purpose is not for us to just understand Ellen White, but the purpose is to see how Ellen White leads us to the study of the Bible, and how Ellen White leads us also to a full commitment and a relationship with Jesus. I will highlight some of the broad areas that will be covered by the upcoming lessons. These are areas that are important for this orientation to Ellen White and her writings. Who was Ellen White? This question has been asked many times. Ellen White's contribution has been recognized by the Smithsonian Journal in 2014. In the religious section, she was in the first 10 and was given a full page that was dedicated to her life, her story, and contribution. She was the co-founder of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. While her contribution is recognized widely, her life and ministry are a partial fulfillment of the renewal of the gift of prophecy today. So as we look at Scripture and how it projects what is going to happen in terms of how God is going to unveil the importance of the gift of prophecy, even in our modern times. Ellen White received hundreds of visions. There are more than 130 titles, book titles and compilations under her name. She wrote on a variety of subjects such as health, education, Bible prophecy, and so on. What about her story? Ellen White's life story has been appreciated by many readers. A view on her early struggles, spiritual orientation, had added value to the appreciation of her writings. It is therefore important for those who read her writings to have an orientation to her and to her life and ministry. Spiritual formation during her early years is an important topic to consider as we look at this orientation. How about her spiritual life? How was Ellen White in her spiritual life? How about her life at home? Life in the church and community. Many people don't know how to access this information, but it would help so much to know her a little better and understand her writings. Ellen White had very close relationship with God. And this statement helps one to have a glimpse of that relationship that she had. And she said, "My whole being longs after the Lord. I'm not content to be satisfied with occasional flashes of light. I must have more." And if you look at the dates when this was written, it was around 1892. And that was the time when Ellen White was writing on the life of Christ. How about Ellen White and her relationship with her sister? In writing a letter to her sister, Ellen White writes, "My only helper is the Lord. When I get into these hard, suffering times, I try to be quiet in God and trust fully in Him, asking His forgiveness for my imprudence. I love to speak of Jesus and His matchless love, and my whole soul is in this work. I have not one doubt of the love of God and His care and His mercy and ability to save to their uttermost all who come to Him. That which I have seen of His precious love is a reality to me." You know, when you talk to a family member, it has a different ring because you are vulnerable and you open yourself up. And this letter was actually a letter to her sister. And so Ellen White was opening and making herself vulnerable. And as we can see, she's expressing the challenges that she was facing. But she has this connection with Jesus. What about her role? Ellen White assumed her roles with humility. And she writes, "My work includes much more than this name signifies. I regard myself as a messenger entrusted by the Lord with a message for His people." And this is in letter 55 of 1905. Ellen White regarded herself as a messenger of the Lord. And Ellen White also passed the biblical tests of a true prophet. And you have the passages there if you'd like to note them and read them in your own time, how Ellen White has passed through all these tests. She was also a preacher. H.M.S. Richards was a little boy, and he was present at one of Ellen White's preaching occasions. And he recalls how it was raining, and he was able to hear her voice through that rain noise that was coming through. She was also an inspired writer, a counselor. There are many people who received excellent counsels from her, guiding in their lives. She was also a biblical expositor. What about her contribution? Ellen White contributed in the history of the development of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. She made a significant contribution, but not limited to the specific areas I'm highlighting now. In doctrinal development, Ellen White guided the church in areas where the church would have gone away and astray, but she was able to guide the church in those doctrinal development times. Theological themes. There are beautiful theological themes that Ellen White has developed, like the Great Controversy theme. And this theme has helped to connect us to the Bible and also to connect us to the entire collection of her writings as an organizing theme. As some theologians have said that this is the organizing theme of her writings. And she also contributed in organizational development. Back in 1863, Ellen White guided the church at a time when organization was something that was not on the agenda for many of the early Sabbatarian Millerites and Adventists. They looked at organization as something that is Babylonish. But Ellen White, through her ministry, guided the church to the importance of organization. And even later on, around 1901 to 1903, Ellen White guided the church in the reorganization for mission, because the whole idea was to focus on mission. The ministries and departments of the church owe a lot to the visions of Ellen White, where she guided and presented what the Lord had shown her in vision in the area of education, in the area of health and publishing. These are three important areas where Ellen White guided the church and helped to develop the mission focus and the ministry focus of the church. Ellen White has left a very important legacy to the church. Her books, her letters and manuscripts, journal articles, diaries, compilations, and all electronic resources are now available to everyone. There were times during the ministry of the White Estate when some of these resources were not available, but today we have all these resources accessible and available for everyone to read. And so I want to encourage each one of you to think about really tapping into this resource that is so important, reading Ellen White's writings for yourself and appropriating this wonderful, important message for this time. And so may God bless you as you think about how in your own ministry, whether it is a local church or if you're a pastor, how you can use these resources to prepare materials to use in your own ministry. And as we prepare these prophetic guidance lessons, they're going to add to what we have, but they cannot add to what you can do in collaboration with us in developing your own resources based on authentic materials that are on our website. God bless you.